I am sorry I am late. My slides wouldn't upload. Okay, give me 1 second. My dog wants to say hi. Come on. 1 second. Come on. Come on. Okay. Okay. Say sorry, baby, because we're late. Say hi. Hi, everybody. How are you? Okay. Okay. um. Hi. Okay. Say hi to everybody. Hi, Leah, Dawn Marie, Kim, Seda, Fire Butterfly, Reg, MLB, Marie, Kim, MLB. Okay. Carol, Robin Carr, OSP, Bob German, Sarah, Arlene, Norisa, Cindy, Bora Winkle, Carol, Dawn Marie, um, okay, Nigma Price, Seda, okay, Z, Angel Star, Michelle, Fire Butterfly is on Twitch, Team Messi, Halina, Bang Luna, Z, Michelle Dodger Girl is also on on Twitch. This is your day. V in Dodgers. Okay. It starts at 7. I am Claudia, Amy, Lorena. Um Seda is saying hi to you, baby. HHK, fresh bread and minestrone. Ooh. I had chicken noodle soup. My mom made me one. Okay, who else? Cindy, Nikon Lady, Orchid, Andrea, Marilyn, Wonder Human, Misha UK, Audrey. Is that Australia? BTS paved the way. Wow, you are on X. Um, okay, Evie, Danny, Hazel, Didi, Z, Nigma Price, My P, Multistan, Leia, okay, Kugi, Share Your Love, Raquel, MM Sky LA10. Lindsay, hi everybody. Today's the day. V is going to be in Dodgers, so he's going to be throwing the first pitch. I think it's 7 p.m. If I'm not mistaken. I was debating whether or not I should go last minute. But I decided not to go just because there's a lot of things that I need to sort of get in place just so I could proceed with the other things that I need to do. So, but hi. I think you can watch it two ways. You can watch it if you have cable TV, and then I think for the most part you can watch it. It's CBS, isn't it, or something like that? Yeah. But I will catch it later because I do have to. Right around that time, there's something that I need to do. I have to talk to someone at that time, and so I'll catch it later. But okay, give me 1 second. Sure. Is my voice better? And I hope that the AC doesn't bother you all that much. Okay, give me one sec. All right. There's a big baby on my lap. Okay. Hi, hi. 7 p.m. So it'll be 10. Yes. Let me see. Yep, 710. 710, yes. So for you to watch it, you can go to Spectrum Sportsnet. You can watch it in MLB.TV, but that has subscription. Sling TV. Yeah. Okay. So those are Fubo. There's a limited time offer for Fubo if you want. You can sign up now so you can watch it at 710. I think they also have a promotion for Sling TV. So you can get it now. You can sign up for the free trial so you can watch it at 710. Okay. Um 7 p.m. so it'll be, yeah, 710. It's in 2 hours, correct? Yes, like 10 minutes before the first game pitch. V will throw the first pitch at about 7 p.m., like 10 minutes before the first game. So you have to believe Dodger Girl because it's her name, Dodgers. So yeah, so most likely the first pitch is at 7. If you want to sign up for free subscription on those that I've said, is it in ESPN? Let me see. Mm, no. So you can, doesn't say. Weird, huh? It just says Fubo, Sling TV, TV channel, FS1 if you have free TV. Yeah, that's it. No, it isn't available on ESPN. So just, it's, I mean, it's, you can sign up for free anyway on those sites that I've mentioned. So just go ahead and sign so that you can watch it at 7 today. Just make sure you cancel like a day after. Just cancel so that you'll have to be, or just wait, or yes, of course, yeah. Then you can just wait until armies actually paste it. That is true as well. So a lot of armies are going to be going to be uploading it on YouTube anyway, so you can wait. But of course, it's always nice to support the original, like the source, because then you'll help proving the power of V, right? That's why it's yeah, that's why it's better if you've watched the source. So it's just sign up, just make sure that you cancel and then keep your cancellation receipt so that if there's anything that goes wrong, then at least you can recover them. I always like, whenever I do subscription, I like doing it on PayPal because it's easier to cancel. um anything that I actually learned my lesson in Microsoft, because I guess a friend of mine used my credit card to sign up. I remember him asking for permission to use my credit card to sign up, and then she said like, oh, I'm gonna cancel right away, I just need a trial and whatever, she's a friend. And then and she never canceled, and I wasn't even aware that that Microsoft has been charging me for the last like 4 years. And I was having a hard time trying to get it canceled because I don't know which email she used. And Microsoft, of course, was trying to give, not trying, but they were giving me a hard time. Of course, they don't want me to cancel, even though I was telling them I am going to start using it. I just want to start using. If I'm paying for it, I'm going to start using it. Just give me the email, or at least the first letter of the email address. They wouldn't, and so I had to cancel the card entirely just to be able to, just to get rid of them, because they were charging me like $99, I think, or $199 per year. So ever since I learned my lesson, I decided I'll do it via each subscription that I do. I will always do PayPal. So just that's just a tip, and also my personal preference. So okay, all right. What do you want to talk about first? Do you want to talk about RM's letter? Was how was it for you? Was it Were you emotional over his letter? Bang Si-hyuk's case, or do you want to do news and updates, or do you wanted to do? Where is that? Or the companies? Lucy in the Sky. Not sure if it's still in SK. Jin. Are we talking about Jin? I think JK went with him. It's on his Instagram. J Hope got Hope tattooed on his thigh. Yeah, the tattoo artist actually uploaded it. Okay, 7:10 is when the game starts, but the first pitch will start way before that. Okay, so start signing up if you want to do. I think MLB would only do, ESPN only does Sunday games, and of course the World Series. So they might not air this one. So you can do Sling TV. They do have a promotion, or Fubu. So sign up now. It's They have a trial, 7 days or whatever. You just need it for a day anyway. So just cancel the next day. Okay. Okay. So which one do you want to do first? Hobie got a tattoo. Yes. News first. Okay. Let's do news first. Yes. So the first is that we got Fake Love to 1 billion. Yay. So now they actually become and of course Jungkook as well. His 3D also crossed the 1 billion mark. So that would be two of our kids crossing the 1 billion mark, and that would make Jungkook the only native Asian soloist to have four songs surpass 1 billion streams on Spotify. So that would be, he has the most songs with 1 billion streams, and one of them also has 2 billion. So I have absolutely no doubt that Seven is going to cross 3B sooner than later. So I think the next one that we Dreamers, I think, is the closest to 1 billion after 3D. So that's what we need to add to our 1 billion streams. And then Dynamite also is very, very close to 1 billion. So if you guys can just play this, if you can just watch the video, make sure that you watch at least twice a day. And if you're going to do that, make sure that if you can, watch it on two separate times and give it a gap. And don't just go to YouTube, search for Dynamite BTS, and then click it. And then if you can if you can, please use different accounts. If you can use different internet connection, that would be better. So maybe once or twice, you can use your home internet. And then another time when you're outside, you can just use your phone and you can use your data. And if you can connect to another Wi-Fi somewhere else, that would even be better. So different IPs, you're going to end up registering different IPs, and that would be unique. So that's the key. If you can provide unique IPs, that would be better. Okay, so if you do that, even for new releases, that would be a great practice. Separate accounts, separate IPs, that would be a valid play. Okay, so please make sure that if you can, please watch Dynamite. It's very, very, very close to 2 billion. I know that there were issues about um, YouTube taking out views. We've been battling that issue for the longest time. It hasn't really changed, and it's not going to change. The only thing that we can change is the way that we stream. So let's try to change the way that we stream in order to avoid the views getting scrubbed. Okay. This is YouTube videos for Dynamite. Yes. 2 billion. Okay. And yes, please like the video, like the stream. And then Hope got a tattoo. I did not expect that. I did not expect him getting a new tattoo, but he did, and it's his name. I really love that he has fully embodied hope, because we all know that there was a time when he was feeling burdened by the name because it wasn't exactly something that he chose. It was something that was given to him, and he had to take on that personality. But it's amazing how he never resented. It came from him. He said he thinks that the name made him, but he also eventually embodied it. I do feel that how he got the name, how he eventually became Hope, was something that was destined to happen to a certain degree, or it was the ending of his evolution. It's just that it took a BTS, and it took a big hit for him to help him get there. But this has always been his end destination. Um because it's not Yeah, I just love that how he ended up embodying that name and embracing that name and really making it him. And now he tattooed that on his body. I thought, because we know he doesn't like pain for the lungs. I don't even know if his piercings now are real, but we know that we he didn't want to get any kind of piercings, and he was the last person. And he didn't like pain in general, so I did not expect that he was actually going to get another tattoo. But I also think that, having tattooing his name would be like, if there's anything that he would get tattooed, it would be his name. So happy for that. We won't see it often because he doesn't really wear shorts a lot in his formal engagements, or his work engagements. But the mere fact that he showed it to us, I'm sure that the tattoo artist asked for permission, and the mere fact that he allowed that, it's great. So, okay. I know that a lot of you would be asking where the tattoo artist is, his clinic. You can his shop. I'll post the address on the comment section, on the description box, not the comment section, in the description box, so that you can go there. And then he was with V. So, oh, sorry, that's not V. He was with somebody. He was with one member, is what I heard. So I don't know who was the other person that he was with, but someone accompanied him, I heard, going to the clinic to get a tattoo. So, but that's not V. That's not V. Okay, so that's it's a this store is beautiful. The place where the tattoo store is, it's um that's V in the picture. Fire Butterfly said that's V in the picture. Okay, so I guess it is. Look short, don't you think? No, that's not JK. That's V. Okay. Well, you heard it was V. Maybe V went for moral support, or maybe he got a tattoo as well. But I really love his tattoo. I think it was sort of and it's symbolic for him to get it at the end of the tour, at the after his tour, because it's kind of like at the end of his chapter 2, basically, where he now has fully become Hope. Everything is gone except, and the only thing that's left in the box is hope. So I truly love that. So I was just saying that BTS is now the first and only Asian act to have 5 songs with 1 billion streams on Spotify history. So that's Dynamite, My Universe, Boy with Love. Sorry, it is V. My friend told me it is V. So this he said it is V. That's V. My friend just messaged me. He confirmed that it's V. Okay. So all right. So okay, so that's he said it's V. I'll take his word for it. He wouldn't fool me. He wouldn't lie to me. So okay, so that's V. BTS is the first and only Asian act to have 5 songs with 1B streams on Spotify history. So we have Dynamite, My Universe, Boy with Love, Butter, and Fake Love. So the next is their single in the B album. So that's the next one for 1 billion streams. But of course, we need to make sure that Dynamite also crosses the 3 billion. Okay, so so they're the first and only for now to have 5 songs with 1 billion streams. So congratulations to BTS. Sure, it's not Jimin. And my gosh, BTS. This was so funny. So I heard of this project today. I don't know, in the middle of the week last week. Life Goes On. Yes, Life Goes On is the next song that we will be pushing to 1 billion, because that's the closest to 1 billion. So that's then. So then I'm just going to check after Life Goes On what is the song that is closest to 1 billion after Life Goes On, and I'll start tracking that as well for our if you would remember, every 2 weeks I try to track all the songs that are closest to 1 billion, 2 billion, and 3 billion. So I'll check what is the next one after Life Goes On. But I've heard of this project for the 21st Century Girl in the middle of last week. And she said that, and someone told me that, oh, we're gonna try and chart 21st Century Girl. And I thought it was so random, because I'm like, 21st Century, that's like a decade ago. And why are we doing it now? Well, I was told why. But anyway, it was so funny. And we pushed it. We pushed it to to number 2 of iTunes. And I heard there were other fandoms that were really upset about it. And I can't blame them, but it's just so funny that we managed to chart a 10-year-old song. And it's not even like, it's just, one of those songs. It's not, it's not a monumental song for BTS. It's just really one of those songs that they released. So congratulations to armies, I guess. This is really an effort of the armies. Where is this project? So Facebook, IG, and X are usually, that's where. I heard there are also a lot on Reddit and Discord. I'm not usually on those websites. I sometimes visit Reddit just if I want to get a feel of what, just an alternative point of view on certain issues that I'm looking up, but not necessarily, I'm not there necessarily regularly. But that's where they usually distribute, or that's where they do their PR whenever there's a special project. So they did this just I really don't know why they, okay, I do know why they did it. But I think it was just that they were pissed because another fandom that normally armies are friendly with are trying to, like, spite BTS or something. And so armies were like, okay, we're gonna chart a certain, like, random BTS songs. And they did. So it was just funny. It was just fun for me. That's how I took it. It was just really fun that they were trying to chart 21st Century Girl, and they actually managed to chart it. I don't think it's any big deal. I think those armies were just like, oh, it was like, okay, teasing the other fandom, I would say. Of course, the other fandom didn't necessarily think it was funny, but there you go. We got it to number 2. So congratulations to armies. And then I just saw this picture. Someone sent this to me. This is actually the OG team of BTS. Do you recognize them? Which other fandom? Which other fandom? Um, Yoongi can crack a walnut with one hand. uh, okay, so Army Flex, yeah. Yeah, that other the other big fandom. Okay, so do you recognize all of them? So this is the OG members of the original. This is the OG team of BTS, and um all of them allegedly are still in. We know that Song Sundok is still with Hybe. It's just that he has moved on to a higher position, an executive level position. Right now, he's closely working with Geffen for Cat's Eye, and I think he has now moved to Latin America to be in charge to take charge of the new boy band, all with the creative direction, not necessarily with the choreography. And so he's still with Hybe. And then of course the other one, the guy beside him, is still with Hybe, but he's not a manager. He's not the security or the manager anymore of BTS. He has taken also an executive position. That's why we don't see him. But allegedly he's still there. So he's still with Hybe. And then of course that's Supreme Boy and the other manager. So the other manager, I forget his name, but he's still with Hybe. So the original team, all of them are still with BTS, sorry, with Hybe, but not necessarily assigned to BTS anymore. All of them have actually taken a higher position. So someone sent me this picture and just like, oh my God, the OG team. So these are the people that those that have been a fan of BTS since 2013. These are the people that we would usually see with them in airports, in Billboard Music Awards in 2017. I remember manager Sejin carrying 7 cups of Starbucks coffee. And he was like, there was just like he was the only one who was with the boys on the red carpet and also during the ceremony. So he was right behind the boys together with the then PR publicist of BTS, Gazette. So I just zapped me back into 2013. And I think it's also because of Cortez, because I've been watching some of the content of Cortez, and many of the things that I'm watching them do, it's sort of zapping me back into the 2013, 2014, 2015 BTS. And so this made me smile. So I just wanted to show this guys to you. And of course we have Adora. She was an OG also of BTS. So she started as a producer for Hybe. She decided to quit just because, according to her, she decided to leave because she didn't feel like she has grown as fast as the other ones, like Supreme Boy, Slow Rabbit. And she feels like she needed more on like actual K-pop experience for her to get to their level. So that's her reasoning why she actually left. But she of course left in a good note. And when she debuted as a soloist in K-pop, P Dog and Slow Rabbit actually did a reaction on her single. So please, if you can find the songs of Adora, they're really really good. She's also a big fan of Highlight. Okay, and then of course that's P Dog, and he is still with BTS. So yes, Supreme Boy and Slow Rabbit were both trainees, but I think Slow Rabbit very very early on shifted to being a producer. Supreme Boy actually trained for BTS, I believe, for a while until he decided to become a producer. So, but yeah, so Supreme Boy, if you can follow Supreme Boy on IG, he has an IG. And of course Adora. Just keep on checking the music of Adora. She's really great. She's great. So, haven't seen Adora lately. Heard she was sick for a little bit. I think she's recovered now, but I'm not really sure what her next moves are. But I do hope that maybe she can find her way back into Hybe. but just she, even P Dog was very clear that if it was Hybe's choice, they wouldn't let her go. It's just that she really felt like she wasn't growing as fast as Slow Rabbit and the rest of the boys, the rest of the guys who she started with. But also she started as a producer very very young, so you know. Okay. But please check their IG, check their music. They're great. Okay. And then ILLIT won the Best New Artist award for K-pop in iHeart Awards 2025. So congratulations to the girls. I there was so there was someone who posted on Facebook, I believe this happened. Someone posted a picture of a pair of legs with knee-high socks, and someone just mentioned eyelid. Several people actually mentioned eyelid, and I realized just how strong the brand of these girls are. They weren't eyelid, they were actually guys. But I just realized how strong their their branding is. Okay, didn't Adora join Suga on stage at the finale? Yes. So I think Suga, and she still continues to work with BTS, by the way. So she continuously gets asked to do some background vocals, and I think she still submits songs and whatever. It's just that, like Supreme Boy, she was getting trained, and Slow Rabbit, initially she was getting trained to become an actual producer and eventually handle her own group, like be assigned the way Slow Rabbit, and they are assigned their own group. It's just that she just felt that she wasn't ready, and that her exact wording was that she didn't feel she was getting to that level fast enough where she can actually handle a group of her own. That's why she left. Okay, so I'll It, as I've said, won the Best New Artist K-pop award in iHeart's 2025. And so the girls really, this group actually needs to be studied on how strong the branding is. They have built a really really strong brand. I think I dare say probably strongest branding since Blackpink. I would say that. Um, and I actually went down the rabbit hole trying to figure out how their agency actually managed to do it. But I do think that that strong branding is going to play to their advantage eventually. I will discuss that, and probably I'm going to do it. I'm not sure if many of you are interested in learning about their branding or whatever. If you are, let me know. But if not, I'm just gonna do it in the paid subscription. It's really so interesting. So, okay. So congratulations to ILLIT. And I also saw them. I saw some fans started uploading clips of the ISAC, and it was such a joy watching the girls. Lemon characters taking his sunglasses. Oh, okay. Hi, thank you, Mycel. Is that for DAEBAK? Congrats. Thank you for the super sticker. So I geek out on that, on those stuff. Okay, so I'll do that. So if I'll probably do a survey, and if I have enough votes, then I'll do the branding examination of ILLIT on this, or if not, then I'll do it in the paid subscription. So going back to so yeah, so I think they do have enough of a they have the strongest brand since BP, and it was such a joy watching them in ISAC. Some fans uploaded some raw footage of the ISAC, and they actually spent some time with, so they reunited with the girls that they competed with in RU Next. For example, Chanel, now with 50/50. She was one of the fan favorites, and unfortunately she got caught from the team. But it was nice to see them, bonding and laughing together, which only goes to show that most of these fan wars really are just really fans, because the girls are obviously happy to be spending time together. They were cheering for each other. And also, even the girls that don't have any kind of connection with them started being friends with them. Like, for example, Meow of Black Label, one of the girls approached ILLIT and the other girls, and they just like Wonnie of ILLIT just asked everybody to form a bigger circle so that the members of Meow can actually join their group. It was such a just happy to see some the girls getting along, like this girls that, because of the only things that we usually hear are the fans waging war against each other, that we kind of lose track. We kind of see them the way other fans see them, and to see them here actually bonding, it was just a happy thing to see. So if you can watch Isaac, please do it. And then Golden is actually number one on Billboard Hot 100 again. So this is their second week on the chart. So congratulations to EJ, Audrey Nuna, and Remy. So someone asked me why. Why they're doing so well in the chart. So because they're getting a lot of radio support. So if you look at their stats, they're getting a lot of streams as well. So it's really a balance of the streams and the radio support. But had it not been for airplay, um, it wouldn't be as strong. It will still be strong, but it wouldn't be as strong. So if you look at the chart, um, they are getting 16 million airplay, 34.2 million streams. And then number two is even stronger on airplay, 72.7 million. And then streams is 23.3 million. So this is the key. My guess is that Golden is actually going to spend a lot of time in the top 10. It's probably going to break a lot of K-pop records. And there are a lot of fandoms that are not happy about that, but specifically the girl groups, because they're gonna stomp a lot of the records of girl groups. They're probably gonna stay in Billboard Hot 100 for a really long time. They're probably gonna set a record. At this rate, I mean, they are at number one. This is their ninth week on the chart, and they're not even slowing down. So yeah, I think they're gonna be staying there. So I know that Atlantic is trying to keep Die with a Smile and Apathy in Billboard Hot 100 for a really really long time to establish some new records. So if they plan, if Atlantic actually wants those two records for Bruno Mars, then they better shell out more money, because Golden is gonna give them a run for their money. And what's even more amazing is that it's a Netflix movie. So, but okay, so now it's getting a lot of streams, and it's getting a lot of airplays as well. It's getting a lot of spins. So it's not a real girl group, yeah. And a lot of media companies are now referring to them as a fictional act, which is good. This is progress for us. But so the last week I was trying to get to the bottom of how this actually started. Why did social media companies actually started calling them a girl group? Allegedly, this is, or at least based on what I discovered, it actually was started by several fandoms. And a lot of them were female fandoms, because they knew Golden was going to break some of BTS's records. And so they were really pushing for it because they didn't want BTS to have it. Now, I think they didn't really think this through, because what ended up doing was that the media just started referring to them as a girl group, and so it was their favorite girl groups that were that ended up whose records ended up getting broken by Golden. So it was just funny. And this is the value of paving the way, because it's not about, the media companies are not, they're not sort of framing it as if, oh, this is the end of BTS. Like it wasn't like that, because the media is kind of warming up to the idea of BTS actually being the reason K-pop is even in the international charts. So they're like, so it's now Golden versus other girl groups, which a lot of girl group fans don't like. because it's their girl group, their favorite, that's getting erased by by golden. So it's a crazy thing. Anyway, but that's not a scientific research. I just tried to look for an explanation as to where that trend started. And it allegedly, apparently, or at least based on my findings, it started with some fans calling them a girl group just because they feel, calling them a K-pop act because they feel that they were going to break a lot of BTS's records. So, okay. The American music companies are supporting it because they aren't BTS. True. And also because it's a way for them to hijack K-pop. So yeah. Can you put like the video banner? I'm not sure what do you mean video banner? Um can you explain what that is? Okay. Okay, so that's the reason. It's a lot of airplays. It's a balance between airplays and streams. So let's see. But I'm pretty sure that Netflix is going to push this for it to actually break even more records. So, but I'm just happy that there seems to be like a consensus that you can't compare anybody to BTS anymore. So it's like good. Okay, next is that TXT is starting their world tour. So this is where they are going to be in the US. They're going to be in San Jose, LA, Dallas, Illinois, Georgia, DC, Newark. So if you um oh, like the video banner. Got it. Got it. Okay. I was like, what do you mean? Okay, give me 1 second. Is that working? Okay. All right. So if you are in any of these places, please check their shows out. There's still a lot of tickets available. So this is the last time that I checked for LA. So there are floor tickets that are like less than 200. So so check them out. Oh, Pinoy Yonsei is going to Newark. So if you can, please check them out. And then so this is for LA. There are floor tickets that are like 200. I mean, come on. So I might go to BMO. Let's see. I just need to check my schedule because I remember my mom wanted to watch Air Supply. So I think I already bought tickets, or my best friend bought tickets. Just need to check the date of that. And then I'll go check them out. So please, if you can check them out, there's still a lot of tickets available. So that's for BMO. And this is for Newark. So you see, still a lot of there's the for Newark, the floor is standing. So if you don't want to stand, there's still a lot of tickets on the that are seated. So go ahead and check them. They're pretty good. So I've been there. So even if you are in the seated area, not on the floor, it you'll still be able to get a really good look at them. You'll see them. You'll see the details of the boys. So go ahead and watch them. So check them out. Again, these are the cities where they will be. California, San Jose, Los Angeles, Texas, Illinois, Georgia, DC, and Newark. So there are 2 days in Newark, 1 day each, except for Illinois, 2 days as well. All right, old school air supply. I know I can't. I think yeah, I think I'm pretty sure either I or my best friend bought tickets already because my mom wanted to buy tickets and my best friend's like, okay, we'll go. Like they're old, so they kind of wanna. So this is another thing that someone sent to me. So uh the name of the girl group is pronounced Young Pose. Just a horrible name. I don't know if these people don't check. If you're going to be using English words to name your Korean boy band or girl group, they should be checking what the names sound like in English. I don't know why they named the group this. Anyway, they're pretty good. But so they are a new group, and they released a new single, and allegedly in the first couple of days they got to about 10 million views. Okay, 10 million views. And so um a lot of people were very impressed because they're not that popular. They will be, I'm sure, because they're very, very talented. But a lot of people felt that it was just really soon, especially based on the track record of their previous songs. Now, the bigger issue that a lot of people are noticing is that after 10 million, the views have been frozen. It's just like 10 million now for several days. It isn't moving. That's one. And the other is that the comments were there were like 4,000 comments, and for 1 million views, that's really, really low. So just to give you an idea, it's usually the likes the ratio of likes to views should be right around three. I'll say if it's a really good video, it would be 5% to 10% of the total videos, total views. And then your comments should be 1 to 3%. But they had, for the longest time, they had like 400 comments, and now it's about 4,000, which is still very, very few compared to the number of views that they got, which is 10 million. And so many were wondering if this is an example of paid views, right? And so what, however, surprised me is that how come they're noticing it now when there are a lot of groups that have been doing this for a really long time now. There are groups that are getting, or K-pop acts that are getting 50 million, and they have the same ratio. So this is nothing new. It's very common for a lot of management companies to actually buy views. And the one thing that I learned from Google or social media, whatever, if you are a professional group or a professional company or an actual corporation, companies like Google and YouTube, they will force you to advertise. And so that's the reason many YouTubers are now not growing or stuck at a certain number, primarily because YouTube wants us to advertise. So there is what they did is nothing new. It has been done, and a lot of companies are actually doing it right now. It's just that, it's not helping the girls um to throw them this kind of numbers without building their fan base first. So I hope that marketing, the management labels, the labels of the K-pop, this K-pop groups will actually bother to try and build their fan base first before giving them this amount of marketing budget to promote their music videos. Okay, the usual BTS. All right, all right. So do you want to go down, baby? Okay, say bye. Say bye bye to everybody. Say bye. Mm. Say bye bye. Bye bye. Say bye bye, baby. Come on. Bye. Bye bye. Say bye bye. Oh, so cute. Isn't he cute? Okay, bye. Bye. You're just resting there. Bye. Okay. All right. Okay. Yep, he is happy. He's very snuggly. He does like getting scratches from me, so. Okay, which one do you want to talk about next? We have RM's letter. We can talk about Bang Si-hyuk, the case, or we can talk about the different approaches that different companies are using. So don't forget to sign up for Fubu if you want to be able to watch um, V's pitch. So it should start before 7:10. That's when the first pitch actually happens. The ceremonial first pitch will happen before that. So yeah, so just 7 p.m. Maybe tune in at around 6:50 PTD, and that's 9:50 Eastern. So cute. Bang Shiyuk, please. Okay, Bang Shiyuk, RM Namjoon. Bang Shiyuk, Bang Shiyuk. Okay, let's go Bang Shiyuk because there's more who said Bang Shiyuk. Companies, and then okay, this is just a recap of sort of some clarity on the issue. Oh, Amy, thank you. Thank you. All right, so he has more money for his treats. Um okay, so thank you, Amy. All right, so let's go. This was more and more Korean media publications are actually starting to provide some in-depth explanation on the case of Bang Shiyok. As you know, he's back in South Korea and is going to be staying here for there, not here. He's going to be staying in South Korea for an extended period this time because he wants to confront all of these charges. So now, as I've said, more and more Korean media publications are actually publishing a more comprehensive view of the story of the actual case and what they are really after. Also, he's losing a lot of weight. So the accusations basically is hinged on the fact that many of the early shareholders, many of the early investors sold their shares before they went IPO. Okay, that's the bottom line of the entire case. And they are saying that they sold their share because they were told that there was not going to be an IPO. So essentially they said that he lied to us. If he told us that there was going to be an IPO, then we wouldn't have sold our shares, then we would have earned a whole lot of money. So in 2019, Bang allegedly told early investors, VCs, and funds. So these are mostly institutional investors, that there were no IPO plans. That's what the media is saying. And those investors sold their shares to a private equity fund that ended up being linked to Bang Shiyuk. So what they're saying is that he took advantage. He simply wanted to have all of those shares. That's why he kind of encouraged us to sell. Now, after HYBE's IPO in 2020, the PF, the private equity fund that bought all of those shares, made a lot of money, and 30% of that went to Bang Shiyuk. Okay, so that's the accusation. Now, Bang Shiyuk is saying that he did not deceive the investors, that he was very open about the fact that they tried to do an IPO as early as 2017. They failed three times. And he claims that the profit sharing terms were actually proposed by the investors. All right. So, how did it happen? How did he end up getting 30%? And how did the private equity fund get connected to Bang Shiyuk? That has to start. All of this are connected to BTS. They are the beginning and the end of this case, which is astounding to me. Because I don't think any other act in history had this power. I don't know, probably the Beatles. Probably the Beatles. Okay, so in 2017, what was happening to BTS? They made their first appearance in Billboard Music Award. That's when they first got the Top Social Award, which was a minor award for Billboard. In fact, they said that Billboard created that award specifically for the likes of Justin Bieber, because the likes of Justin Bieber will not get any kind of critical award, and so they created something so that Justin Bieber can still have his moment, even though he's not gonna get awarded the critics based awards. Okay, so that was what was happening to BTS in 2017. Aside from that, they got their very first Desang, Mama Artist of the Year Award, MMA Song of the Year, and Golden Disc Awards Album of the Year. Even before they got all of this Desang, they were already slated to do a world tour, a smaller one at that. Okay, so that was 2017. Now, their first IPO attempt was 2018, Stick Investments. The IPO was delayed approximately 2 years, and they Bang Si-hyuk said that I specifically told the investors we are attempting, but it failed. So he warned everybody that he doesn't know where this is gonna go. Okay. He warned everybody, meaning the investors. All right. Now, the shareholder sentiment on their end was very much of concern as to whether or not Big Hit can sustain the success, because they felt that BTS is not the first group to actually attempt to establish an international career. There have been many, and we will get to that when we talk about the companies. There have been many before them, and many of them were backed by really big names like Scooter Braun. Scooter Braun was actually starting to take care of K-pop artists, and many of them failed. So if somebody like Scooter Braun can't launch an artist, a K-pop artist, then you don't have a Scooter Braun at 20. This is 2018. You don't have the backing of a Scooter Braun. I don't think this is gonna work. That was the sentiment of many of the shareholders. They felt that BTS was actually a flash in the pan, and that they have reached their peak. And so they feel that the Billboard Music Award, Top Social Award, is it. That is the highest they can ever go. And of course, the other thing is that they are going to have to enlist. So during the enlistment, what where are you going to get your income? When are you going to launch your next boy band? So HYBE also, because they failed in the IPO, prioritized attracting global investment over an IPO. They secured a major, so they felt that securing a major investor, like how Kupang actually did it, would actually allow them to focus more on the management. So they didn't want to exert any more effort in the IPO too much because they've already failed. So they started getting more private investors. So they were sort of fixed on becoming a private company for a while. Now 2018 happened. Okay. Um, okay, so then in Love Yourself, in 2018, they did Love Yourself, the tour. Okay, so they started the tour, and this was not a stadium tour yet. So they started their Love Yourself world tour, and uh, they launched Idol, which entered Billboard Hot 100. Okay, so it seems the worries and the concerns of the investors were being proven incorrect because BTS was still on their way up. In fact, Idol actually got into Billboard Hot 100. They sold out their tour. They also did their UN speech at that time. So this was the very first time they were invited in the UN. They delivered a speech. I'm sure that you remember that moment. It was the talk of the international media that a Korean boy band delivered a speech in the UN. Okay, so they decided to sell their stakes to manage their risk. Okay, so they had financial risk and they thought, okay, we're just gonna sell this, and that they were very uncertain at this stage. They weren't sure. The enlistment was looming. They didn't want to take the risk, and so they said, we're just gonna sell. So okay, so Bang Shiyuk said, okay, we're going to, and then the other concern is that they were highly dependent on BTS. So okay, so they asked Bang to help them sell their shares, and it was actually the shareholders who proposed the terms. Okay, so remember, BTS already sold out their tour. They already delivered the speech in UN, and they released a song that entered Billboard Hot 100. And the investors were still very uncertain of the future. Okay, 2018, all of this BTS was getting all of this success, and they were still very uncertain. So Bang Shi-hyuk said, "Okay, I'm gonna help you sell the shares." Okay, so he approached an American and Japanese investment firms about buying the shares of the shareholders that wanted to buy the shares. But even those companies were uncertain about Big Hit. They realized their question was basically, you're too reliant on BTS. This is one IP, and they are going to go to the military soon. And based on the history of K-pop groups, once they go into the military, they never come back to the same popularity and the same career. So he kept on getting turned down. Okay. But so remember, Bangshu committed, okay, I'm going to help you sell the shares. I'm going to look for, and then everyone that he approaches kept on saying no. So um, he partnered with another private investment company, Easton Equity Partners. And this company, for this company to say yes, for this company to buy back the shares, Bang Shi-hyuk did was tell the company, if um if you end up losing money, if you end up losing money eventually down the road, I will cover the difference. Just buy their shares now. And if something happens in the future, if it tanks or whatever, I will cover the difference. I'll pay you so that you won't lose a dime. So PEF said, all right, we'll buy the shares. And so they bought several shares, LB Investments, um, a portion of the Vice President Choi Young-jung's stake, and several other institutional investors. So they bought all of those shares back. But even when they bought it back, this institutional investor still made money. Okay, so all right. Now they went 2019. Okay, so that investors already bought the shares of those initial investors. 2019, BTS won in AMA, favorite pop or duo group. Sorry, favorite group or pop duo. And they were the first Asian act to actually win this award, Asian native act to actually win this award. So again, signs were pointing to BTS not being done. So all the worries that they had about BTS peaking, about BTS um, not sustaining their success, it seems unfounded because they're still doing it. Right around this time is when I discovered that they were already planning their 2018, I think, is when I discovered they were already planning their military enlistment, and they were banking 2 years worth of content. So I knew as early as then, I already knew they were going to sign, they were going to enlist right around the same time. I was like, they're going to enlist together. Okay, so, and then after that, they also Map of the Soul Persona reached number 1 in Billboard 200, and that was the third consecutive number 1 in Billboard 200, and they did it in less than a year. And of course, they released Boy with Love, which debuted at number 8 in Billboard Hot 100. So again, still all of this talk, um, they are still on their way up. All of this worry about them peaking, they're still on their way up. Okay. So this is also when Wembley happened. So June 1 and June 2, 2019 was the historic Wembley concert. They sold out both dates in less than 90 minutes. Okay. So again, all these concerns about BTS not peaking already being proven wrong. Okay, so that happened in 2019, and that was a part of their encore of the Love Yourself tour. Okay, June 2019, that's when the 30% profit share clause for Bang Si-hyuk happened. So Bang Si-hyuk said, okay, I need 30% of whatever you're going to be making. Um, so in 2018, during the sale, during when Easton first bought those shares from the initial investors, the 30% of Bang Si-hyuk was not there yet. It was added later on. Added later on. Okay, so that's when, so this was June 2019. That's when it was added into the clause. All right. 90, 90 minutes. A little less than an hour actually. But because a lot of armies were tracking it. Around 40 minutes, it was all sold out. The problem was on the Wembley side. Okay. Okay, so the contract allocated 30% of the sale profits to Bang Si-hyuk with a put option clause requiring him to repurchase shares at the principal plus a certain return if the IPO failed. That is why Easton allowed the 30% because it required Bang Si-hyuk to buy. Well, there's basically a put option. So Bang Si-hyuk said, okay, I'll put a put option in there so that you are guaranteed not to lose money, but I get 30% if we actually make money. Okay, so Chairman Bang promised investors like Stick and Easton P a downside protection clause. So if the companies failed to go public by a certain date, Chairman Bang would purchase their shares at a higher price. So Bang Si-hyuk said, okay, we're going to try for an IPO again. And if we fail, I'm going to buy back all the shares. But if we succeed, I'll get 30%. Okay, so the private equity fund felt that it was good. All right. So in the end, early investors actually still made money, right? Because as they were the ones who set down the terms. Bang Si-hyuk agreed. He did his best to find investors until there wasn't any, until he found this PEF. LB Investment made 20 times their initial investment. Legend Capital made 3.88%. The remaining 6.2. So they sold only a portion of their shares. The remaining 6.2 sold after the IPO, but I think they sold really early into the IPO. And the Alpen route 50% of its initial investment by selling its stake. So they all made money. None of them lost money. They didn't make as much money as they would have been had they waited, but they still made money. Okay. So that was what happened. While when HYBE's effort to try and get more investments from investors overseas, they kept on failing, and so they said, let's try for another IPO. Okay, so while they were preparing for another IPO, dynamite happened. Quite literally, August 21, 2020, it hit Billboard Hot 100 number 1 during the pandemic. Everyone was shocked, including their dogs. And HYBE Corporation, formerly known as Big Hit, went public on Korean exchange October 15, 2020. The IPO raised 926 billion won, South Korean, and or approximately 706 million. And that was enough to actually fund all their growth plans. Okay, so imagine this: August 21, 2020, Dynamite hit Billboard Hot 101. By October 15, they were approved for IPO. So tell me that's not an effect of BTS. Okay, so just as the article said, where this entire thing was based, um, the initial public offering was 135, but they reached a peak of 421 1,501 in 2021. So if you're an investor, had you waited for another 2 years, then you would have won big time. And there were a lot who actually won big time. But at the end of the day, just as the article said, no one really knew BTS was going to make it that big. And so those who took the risk for BTS reaped the benefits, and those who didn't, they were the ones who didn't get as much. Okay, so someone was asking, but who are these people that are complaining about this entire thing. So no one has identified who they are. So no one really knows as of the moment. A lot of people are um, guessing that they are asking this, because remember, these are institutional investors, not individual investors. The ones that sold their shares early, they are companies. They are they are companies. That these companies are the ones that are being enticed. They're being encouraged to come forward and formally file a complaint. The thing is that you, in a normal situation, if you do any kind of board meeting, I'm sure you know this, there are minutes of the meeting. And in a corporate meeting, these minutes are extremely, extremely detailed. Okay. So if the only thing that Bang Shiyuk and Hybe will have to prove is that they were informed. For as long as Bang Shiyu can prove that in those minutes, in the emails that he has sent and in the plans that he have presented, that he informed them, we tried an IPO, we failed, we don't want you to lose your money, you might want to share, but we're not forcing you. For as long as they can prove it, he's good. So that would be the end of it if things are fair. If they're going to try this case fairly, for as long as he can prove to these people in my emails, in the minutes of the meetings, in all of our correspondence, in the business proposals that I've sent, I've told everybody that I keep on failing in our IPO, then he should be good. Now, we don't know if they are going to be fair. If there's anything that we know by now is that South Korea is looking for um, a sacrificial lamb right now because of the new administration. He's a Robin Hood. He likes going after the rich. So he definitely wants to set a sample. And you know that the president of South Korea met with Trump today. And it was of course very limited of what they met about was published, but you can see how he wants to show Trump, because he needs the military support of Trump, right? South Korea still needs the military support of Trump. So of the US, not of Trump, but of the US. So he kind of wants the world to see that they are being tough on the rich. So he definitely needs, or crimes for that matter. So he definitely needs a sacrificial lamb. So let's see if that sacrificial lamb is going to be Bang Shiyuk. Bang being so GI, he has receipts. I am confident that he has receipts. I am confident that um, he is not going to do something so irresponsibly. I am sure that his lawyers were covering his back, his behind. I'm sure that they were advising him um, how to do it properly. I'm sure everything is documented, but as I've said, it's not necessarily the truth that they are after. They just want a sacrificial lamb at this stage because they hadn't caught anybody big. He's been in the office, for a while, not for a while now, but he's been um, there for a month, and there's still no signs of any kind of great thing that he is about to do. So I'm sure that he's looking for, like, he doesn't have a flagship project yet, is what I'm trying to get at. So I'm sure that he's looking for a sacrificial lamb in order to show his people that he's there for business, that he's going to make some changes. So let's see if he's going to um use Bang Shiok as a sacrificial lamb. Okay. Any questions? If Bang Shiuk, first they need to verify if Bang Shiuk influenced the investors to sell their stocks or not. I mean, the legitimacy of their claim need to be verified, right? Is it verified? They, no one has even, no one can even identify who the complainants are, because if you are an institutional investors, there are SOPs in place, right? So in every communication, in every move that you're going to be making, you're given tons and tons of documents. You're given, you actually meet with the people that you invested with. Presentations are done. And so if you are a reasonable private equity firm or any kind of investment company, you would have all of these documents. So if you were properly informed of the risks of selling and the risks of not selling, and with all of this information, you make your decision, you probably will not be stupid enough to try and sue this guy for something that you know you will lose, because that's a waste of money, that's a waste of resources. So my god is that the complaints are not necessarily coming from institutional investors, it's coming from somewhere else. But we don't know who the complainants are as of yet. We don't know who they are, so that we're going to have to wait and see. Does that answer your question? If only Bang Shiyuk had the shaman's rice cakes, it would be in this mess. They met about tariffs and USA military. Trump will hate him if he goes after the rich. What are you saying? Uh, oh, yeah, for sure. Trump is not going to like it if you go after the rich. Yeah. No, I definitely agree. I agree with that. The SK injustice system. I thought cacao was big issue plus the previous president and his wife. I thought cacao was the big issue. The issue, the cacao thing started even before his presidency. So that's not his case. He's still looking for his like his flagship project. He hasn't had any. He doesn't have. That's one of the things that actually amazed a lot of people, because he won without like a flagship project. Well, his flagship project is to get from the rich and give to the poor. But everyone says that. So there's nothing like distinct about him. Um they want the circus, people will remember the headline and not realize all that came to nothing. He went to the press inauguration, maybe that helps. Yes, he did. And in situations like this, unless you have like a grave reason for not attending, you usually do not say no. Maybe that helps. That probably motivated some media people, because as I've said, a lot of media publications started publishing articles that more comprehensively explains the situation. So maybe that helps. Seeing him getting invited by the president, maybe that's like, oh, maybe this is the wrong target or something like that. I don't know. That's speculation. I don't feel Bang PD would do anything illegal. He won't even do payola or bribes. Okay. Um does he have immunity really? He does have, the president of SK. Yes, he does have immunity. He has several cases ongoing. All that had to be stopped because he does have immunity. Yes. Um, you are right. Plus, this president had tried to make some inroads with HYBE, so I think she has this one wrong. Who? I'm not grasping exactly what you're saying. But Bang was invited to attend. Yes, he was invited. Yes. Those two, I don't if you explain to me what is the confusion, I can probably clear it up, but right now I don't know what you are confused with. He was with Twice on a show or interview talking about K-pop. Correct, he was. I discussed that last one. Do they need to name them? You need to ask your questions. I'm not understanding many of your questions. Have you noticed the news getting quieter since Bang's apology letter went public? So that wasn't necessarily an apology letter. It was more of a comforting letter, I would say, to his employees, to the employees of HYBE, and certainly not to the public. It was just really to the employees of HYBE. So it was more like, sorry for the inconvenience, something like that. But it wasn't like an apology, like, I'm sorry I did something wrong. Um, but yes, I do. But I think the reason it has been a little quieter is that there really isn't a lot of movement on the legal side of things. So if something happens, like after that raid, nothing has happened. He was forwarded to the prosecution, and then prosecution hasn't done anything yet. So that, I think that's why it's pretty much quiet. If this goes to trial, doesn't Bang have a right to face his accuser? Yes. Um, yes, he will have the right to face his accuser. But I think that's one of the hurdles that they have. I think, if, as I've said, if you're an institutional investor, you would know that you would have all the documentations before making all of these decisions, and most likely they do. And so for them to actually agree to go to trial, that's going to take up a lot of money, a lot of, and then if they know they're going to lose anyway, why? Any bets that there is a bunny uncle in the SK? Hello, Fair Lisa. I'll watch it tomorrow. Okay, Amari. Um, his flagship, his flagship project, his flagship project is getting along with Trump to keep South Korea protected. That South Korea has always been dependent on the US, regardless of who the president is. Okay, you're getting to this is what I'm talking about, when, especially when you come to this live stream, try to get the your South Korea has always been dependent, regardless of who the president is. They've always relied to us on military. So Democrat Republic, that's always been the case. That has been the case since their liberation. So there's nothing new to that. The president of South Korea oiling up to the president of the US, that's nothing new. They've always needed us. So whatever you see them trying to that's, of course, they need the US. They were protecting them. So that is not so try to get that out of the way and then just focus on the issue. I thought Yoon was the issue. Didn't know this Democratic Party would literally be targeting Bang Si-hyuk. So so this president, this president, he's known for going after the rich and giving to the poor. And in the last live stream, I've already said that in in its core, there's nothing wrong with taking from the rich and giving to the poor. Like in its core, because that's how it should be, right? We should help each other. So if you become a trillionaire, at some point, you're going to have to say, okay, I have enough money. Let's try helping other people. So at its core, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. But there has to be preparation. You need to prepare the poor so that they know how to manage the money, right? So you can't just pluck somebody out of the street and give them $1 million and say, okay, here is money so that you can start a business, go ahead and grow it. That's going to go to drugs. So you do need to prepare people in order for them to know how to manage the money. And that's what he doesn't know how to do. Or okay, maybe, sorry, maybe that's a mistake. That's what he hasn't done yet. So you need to prepare the people first. That's why he failed in his own town when he was still a mayor or something, because he didn't prepare them. So so yeah, so that has been so far his mark. He would take from the rich and give to the poor, which, as I've said, is not necessarily wrong. Now, as a president, though, as a president, what is your flagship? What are you going to be known for? You always have a flagship project, right? And so many were interpreting, because they started going after, he did launch a he criminalized corporate stock manipulation cases. So that's one, but it hasn't been applied. So that's why there were a lot more. Aside from Bangshi, he's not the only company that has been raided. It's just that his name, this were published. There were 20 other companies who were raided right around the same time, but Big Hit was the one Hybe was the one was mentioned because they were the most popular. So it seems that they're gonna go after them. That would be his flagship, but he needs to apply. So once you criminalize stock manipulation, you need to put somebody behind bars. So who's that going to be? Is the question. Also, comments I'm seeing makes me think some here are confusing the old president and his wife with the new one. Yeah, they do have a new president. The old president is they're trying to get him in jail, and his wife is also going to be sued if she hasn't been already. So, is that clear? Do you have any more questions? Do you have any clarifications about this whole issue with Bang Shiyuk? Okay. Trump threatened, let him threaten. Let him threaten. Okay, we're not talking about him. We're talking about the Bang Shiyuk. Can we talk about companies next? Yes. So are we ready for the next one? Okay. So the fact that BTS brings in a major amount that affects the GDP and tourism to South Korea doesn't seem like a little crazy to go after Bang Shiyuk. Definitely seems like a setup. Um, yes, but as I've said, don't think that he's the only one. They rated. If I'm sure you remember that in the news they actually said there were 20 other companies who were rated. So not just him. It's just that Hybe was specifically mentioned because they're popular, because they're attached to BTS. So people are going to be talking about it. So he's not the only one, but Hybe is not the only one that was rated. There were a lot of others. So it seems that he wants that to be his like flagship project. But for that to actually be his flagship project, they have to apply it. So let's see who's going to end up being the sacrificial lamb of that group. Why not go after some long-term chebos who do a lot more crimes? That's a good question. But as I've said, there were 20 other companies who were raided. Okay. If BTS moved to the US, what happens to SK economy? That's a good question. But, there's at the end of the day, they will still be sending some money to South Korea. So it's just that there will be a lot of industries that will be moving to the US if the operations move to the US. Okay. All right. Now, but they're very, very far from that. And this will require a lot more planning. It's not just like they're going to wake up one day and say, okay, everything, our headquarters will be moved to the US. There's a lot more planning to do. Okay. We cannot think that way because that is the only company that they mention. We cannot think they that way because the yes, so they were singled out, but there were 20 other companies. Okay, let's talk about the different companies and how they're approaching their um their their penetration of the US market. So, there's the big four: Hybe, SM Entertainment, JYP, and YG. Where did a puppy go? Under my bed. Okay, so um, let's first, the big news last week was that the CEO of Hybe is now a professional member of the Grammy. So he's now a voting member. Being a professional member means that the requirements to become a professional member is that you need to be a working executive in the music industry of a major music company in the US. And so um we have the CEO of HYBE became a professional member. So now he will have voting powers in the Grammy. So he can also submit entries for Grammy consideration, propose rule amendment to Grammy Awards process, and he can vote starting next year in 2026. So for you to become a professional member, you do need to get elected from within. So members of the Grammy, some or several people or one person will have to nominate you, and then it gets voted on. So yearly, people, members of the Grammy, review these names, and they actually um they vote which ones they want to be accepted in the Grammys. That's how it happens. So he was not initially announced along with the other singers or idols in HYBE, like Le Seraphim's Jungian. They were earlier announced that they became voting members of the Grammys, and then later on he was announced. Okay, so lots of politics happened for him to actually get in here, but it's a pretty good move for them because, for example, for Woozy, Vernon, Yoonjin, although they became voting members of the Grammy, they don't have a lot of powers to affect amendments and rules. But since now Lee Jae-sang is a member, a professional member, then he can actually affect voting processes and propose amendments. So that's a powerful position for him to be in. But that's just the beginning. And he's one of the many. Okay. It's not like he's the only one there. Okay, so this role enhances HYBE America's standing or positioning because they're not just artists, they're actually a part of the institution now. He becomes a part of the governing body that revises rules, proposes amendments, if there's anything that that they feel should be changed, processes that could be better, he's in that position that can actually affect it. Now, as I've said, this is just the beginning. It's a lot of politics, a lot of networking. I'm pretty sure. I don't know if he is fluent in English, but that's probably something that he's working on. Now, do remember that all of these movements, purchasing companies in Latin America, in North America, in India, expanding to many different businesses, BTS is the beginning. Okay, that's why I went through the history of how they managed to do an IPO, because I want everybody to, yes, Bang is a full member. Um yeah, is he still a member if he leaves? Yes. For as long as he stays a working executive in the music industry, then yes. Okay, so because I the reason I went back into the history of them, of how they affected the IPO, is because I want us to realize that even as they make this important networking moves in the US, the BTS was still the beginning. If it wasn't for BTS's success, they wouldn't have this money to go network. And if they didn't have all this money to network, they wouldn't be able to take powerful positions like being a member of the professional body of the Grammys. Okay, so their approach has always been twofold. It was distribution partnership and PR. It's sorry, partnership and grassroots growth. So early on with BTS, what they did was look for a publicist. So that does not in any way, shape, or form give up control of BTS. It's just that they look for somebody that will penetrate the US market with Gazette. I don't know if you remember that guy, but he did pretty well for BTS. And then they pursued a distribution partnership, but they didn't pursue a label for BTS. If you would remember, after BTS, all the other groups that follow them signed under an agency. So from Blackpink to Monsta X to a lot of, even Idol for a while, they were actually getting signed as a talent under a management company. BTS never did that. It has always been big hit. What they saw was distribution partnership. So all of the partnerships were to extend the reach, but it has always been to retain control. Okay, next. BTS success, which resulted in the IPO, empowered HYBE to start planting seeds in the US. Now, instead, it would have been very, very easy for Bang Si-hyuk to sign BTS under Colombia, for example. And quite honestly, maybe it could be argued that had they signed under Colombia, knowing what Colombia was able to do with Butter and Dynamite, probably it would have been easier for them to establish records in Billboard Hot 100, to get into radio, to get into more PR, to be supported with more marketing, paid play listing, all of those stuff, right? That's the benefit that you get when you sign with a US company. But BTS never did. And so while they were able to retain control over their career, they also didn't gain that power, that those direct networks to radio stations, to more marketing money. Okay, so this is the guy, this is the first PR, the first publicist that they had, Eshi Gazette. I know that a lot of early, like, armies, 2013, 24, like, maybe not, maybe 2016, 2017, 2018 armies, a lot of armies hated him because he likes, according to armies, he likes taking credit for the work that armies were actually doing. Okay, let's set that aside. Maybe they do have reasons to hate him, but he still did good work. He was the one who introduced, he was the one who actually booked BTS in shows like Ellen. In He was the one who connected BTS to one of the persons who ended up being a great friend of theirs. Um, uh, Boy with Love. Why am I forgetting her name? Uh, the boy with Halsey. Okay, she was the one who he was the one who introduced them to Halsey, to their mic drop collaborators and many others. So he did some good work. In fact, when he booked the very first um, talk show talk show spot that he got for BTS was Ellen. When he got them the spot, it was only for an interview. It wasn't really for a performance. Okay. So, and talk on the street is that it wasn't like Big Hit wasn't sure if they were going to take it because they wanted BTS to perform, right? Okay, so but it was Ashley who said no, we need to take it even if it is for sorry, it was the other way around. It was just for a performance. They weren't going to get interviewed. So, and they weren't sure, Big Hit wasn't sure about it because they weren't guaranteed that they were going to air it if it's just a musical guest, and they wanted BTS to be interviewed. And as she sort of pushed it, he said, no, no, we have to do it. We have this Ellen, we have to do it. So they did it, but Ellen actually ended up giving them an interview because of the fans who were there. Okay. So no, it was so Halsey and Steve Aoki were it was Eshi Gazette was actually a set. He set up the meeting between them. He was the one who introduced them. Okay, so um all right. So they when the fans when Ellen, and this was a story of Ellen. Okay. Um all of this, I'm just gonna i- there a lot of people in Hollywood are awful. 90, probably 99%. If we're going to just hate everybody who they work with, it's just what can we, everyone, every executive in Hollywood, they're awful. Okay? So just 90, probably 99%, probably 99.9%. So we're just talking about the history of BTS and how they got here. And the truth is that they got here because of all the people they worked with, from Ellen to Billboard, who are still full of people that are awful, to different talk show hosts. They're all of them are awful, but it doesn't erase their history with BTS. Okay. All right. So um going back to Ellen. So it was actually because of the armies that made Ellen want to interview them. So, and this was the story of Ellen. Ellen said that when she saw the reception of the fans to BTS in the studio, it sort of made her realize that we she needed to do something. She said, "Oh, we have to do something. This is a different kind of reaction. We can't just allow them to perform." Okay, so she did that. So she asked for an interview. The boys, of course, said yes, and that was why the translator was not actually camera ready when when he went to sit down for the interview because it wasn't planned. Okay, so this is a perfect that thing that was a perfect example of how publicist starts it, but it's the fans that sustains it, right? Because a publicist can only make an introduction, but they cannot make you a star. That is all up to the artist and all up to the fans. So so you can't take away the role of certain people in Hollywood, like publicists, marketing people, all of those stuff. Okay, so um, all right, let's continue. So after that, after they started, BTS sort of started gaining um, fans. I'm just gonna close the chat for a while. Okay, so once BTS started experiencing more success and of course getting more money for HYBE, that's when BTS but HYBE actually started purchasing uh, companies. So it was clear that their strategy was to do it the grassroots kind of way, meaning they're not just leeching. Okay, they're not just making connections to existing powerful companies. They're actually starting to build their own corporation because they want to become just as powerful as these companies instead of just working with powerful companies. So one of the initial purchases that they made was Ithaca. Okay. And then Scooter Braun came in as the CEO. Okay. So that is their strategy. They don't they don't work under or and they don't just work with powerful companies. They want to become powerful themselves. And they seem to be very much aware that the only way to do it is to build your own power base. So they started buying companies, they started launching their own group in partnership with Geffen, which is Cat's Eye. Okay. Now, that was the same strategy that JYP was going to use back in 2003, I think, Wonder Girls became very popular in the US through their song Nobody But You. Okay, and they even opened for Jonas Brothers. So sorry, that was not 2003. That was 2008, 2009. So 2009, so they launched first the Hangul version of Nobody, which made waves in the US, but not yet as big as Gangnam Style, but still big enough. So by June 2009, they released the English version of Nobody, and that sort of catapulted them to success in the US. Then they opened Wonder Girls started opening for Jonas Brothers. So that success actually inspired JYP to move to the US. So if you would remember, Bang Si-hyuk and JYP talked about this thing where they were they were both in the US because they were trying to build JYP in the US, and then they were actually living in a garage of one of their friends, the both of them, which ended up with some conflicts. They fought. I mean, just the usual conflict of you living with somebody else. And that's when Bang Shiok decided he was going to go back to the US, and JYP supported him through and through. So he put up he said, okay, go back and then I'll start supporting you. So that's when he co-managed 2 AM. Now, the unfortunate thing that happened was the 2009 global recession. So, right when JYP moved to the US to try and set up shop in the US, recession happened. And so things went south from there for JYP. They actually lost a lot of money to the extent that he had to rebuild. So he had to go back to South Korea and rebuild JYP because he lost a lot of money in his attempt to penetrate the US market. Okay. But but it was the same strategy that Bang Shik is doing right now. He wanted to do it grassroots, not just simply allowing other major labels in the US to manage his own talent. Now, because he has two powerful groups, powerhouses, Twice, and Stray Kids. What seems to be happening is that part of the success, the money that he is earning from these two groups, he's reinvesting in their US expansion. And of course, as you know, he launched his very first US girl group, VCHA, which they now will be rebranding to something else because there are only four members now. So he is rebranding the group. So again, if you look at the pattern, it's the same pattern that Bang Shiyuk, the way he's doing it the same way Bang Shiyuk did it. Or you can argue that Bang Shiyuk is actually following their initial strategy because he was the first one who actually want to set up shop in the US. Okay, so same strategy. It's just that the one thing that JYP that big hit or hype had that JYP does not have is a group like BTS. Now, Twice and as Stray Kids together are powerful and profitable groups, but even if you put them together, it's still not as powerful as BTS. Okay, for YG, it's the other way around. They're actually trying to connect with major labels in the US and then have them take care of their idols. The first one to ever make that move, the first one that Yang Yun Suk shipped to the US was Seven. I am sure that a lot of you don't know him, but he debuted in 2003 and then shipped stateside 2007. Okay. So unfortunately, he was really very popular in South Korea, okay, in 2003, and he also was big in Japan. But when he was shipped stateside, there, at least according to his story, there wasn't a clear plan for him. He was like, okay, go there, go ahead and train, you know, attend classes, and then not much connections to the US market. In other words, nothing really happened to his supposed US debut. Okay. Okay. Now, after the success of Gangnam Style, which you already know was actually marketed and pushed by Scooter Braun. Okay. So Scooter Braun, Psy introduced two YG artists to Scooter Braun, CL and G Dragon. And this was a story related by both Psy and Scooter Braun. So he met two, CL and G Dragon. So it seems very obvious what the end goal was, to try and have one of these two get signed by Scooter Braun and sort of build them up in the US. Scooter Braun ended up signing CL in 2014. He met her in 2013. And they had a lot of pictures together. She was constantly in the different parties. She was attending parties of SB, of Scooter Braun. So she was pretty much out there, and there were a lot of hope that she was actually going to be the first artist to break into the first K-pop artist to break in the the Hollywood industry. And it looked like that for a while. Okay. So she launched two singles. First was Dr. Pepper, an all English single, and Diplo actually worked on that. Um, but that really didn't really make a lot of waves in the industry. And then they said that something weird happened. YG said that this is actually not a single. They're not. This is not the first single of CL in the US, even though it was a US release. So okay, never mind. After that, she made her first formal debut with Lifted. And this at this time, she was already being promoted by Scooter Braun. Okay, she was signed under Scooter Braun. And it entered Billboard Hot 100 at 94. So far, as of that moment, there have been three Billboard Hot 100 entries by K-pop artists, two of which were because of Scooter Braun, um, Gangnam Style, and then Lifted. Okay, so that happened. Now, and then after that, nothing happened. Everything got stalled. She wasn't doing anything. She wasn't releasing anything in South Korea. She also wasn't releasing anything in the US. Now, eventually, I guess the contract expired, and CL said that nobody knew what to do. That's why nothing happened to her career. But also, S- Scooter Braun at one point mentioned that he needed to take control. If you want me to manage your artist, I needed to take control, but they won't let me. But he did not specifically say who was they. Who was the one that you were referring to as they? So but he just said that they won't let me, and that's initially the reason. That is primarily the reason he wasn't able to really take care of CL and launch her to stardom the same way he did with his other artists. Okay, and then Blackpink happened. So I guess by then, um, YG had the model on how to get things working. And he prioritized marketing, right? He went heavy on marketing, that even before things was actually happening in terms of records, in terms of sales, the names of the four girls were already on fashion magazines. And that, I guess, was a formula that started working for him. But despite the supposed record breaking tour of Blackpink, YG still went negative on the years that they were supposed to be really doing good, primarily because of the negative result of the LVMH Louis Vuitton, who was one of the initial investors of YG, decided to pull out their investment. So they had to pay him back. They YG had to pay LVMH back. So a lot of the money they made, they had to actually use to pay Louis Vuitton. They had to pay for unsold tickets that they declared sold out. And then they made a lot of bad investments, golf companies, all of those stuff. So eventually those weren't making money, and they had to sell them. And then of course other marketing costs. But it seems that the worst thing that happened to YG, to Yang Yun Suk, and to YG Entertainment as well, is that once they were able to build the IP of Blackpink, the members didn't renew. So all those money they spent for marketing, they will not be able to reap the benefits, because the girls decided we're going to go our own way and pursue our own careers and partner with US labels. So now nothing is happening. Like they put years and years of experience in trying to build their IP, only for them to not benefit from them in the end. So you can't necessarily say that YG did it the wrong way. It's just that they did not look at this in a long-term type of thing. Because the one thing that HYBE still has is BTS, because BTS renewed indefinitely. Or at least that's what I heard. Allegedly indefinitely. And so all the marketing investments they made to BTS, they're still reaping the benefit of that. Okay. So yes, yeah. Well, that is the burning sun is the reason that Louis Vuitton decided to pull out their investments. It's because they didn't want to get caught up in that kind of a scandal, and they kind of realized that things are going to go south, and they had that option in their contract to pull out their investments. Then so they pulled out their investment. Being in the red is not good. Members not renewing their contract is not good. I think that is the biggest loss that they have, because they built Blackpink, the IP of Blackpink. And you might not like their music, you might not like how they perform or whatever. You can say whatever it's you want to say about the girls, but they have a really very very strong brand. I think all that the years of experience of Yang Yun Suk, he put it on Blackpink. He succeeded in Blackpink in making a really really strong brand, but he lost it. So that is the biggest disadvantage that they have right now. Now he's gonna have to build the IP of Baby Monster. And also I think that is what losing Blackpink was the primary motivator for him to start pushing multiple acts to be active, because they're known, as you know, YG is known for having just one boy band and one girl group active, because they kind of like that is their thing. They want fewer artists because they keep on saying that it's about quality and not quantity. But I think experiencing what happened to Blackpink was really what pushed them to to actually what pushed him to actually start launching more groups. Okay. In some markets, Twice is actually bigger than BP. That is true. Twice is actually I can argue that in reality, in terms of sales, uh, Twice is bigger. It's just that in terms of branding, and that includes the media, just actual fashion brands, BP is actually stronger in that. It's why if YG continues to buy fame for his groups instead of building it up, they will never really surge up. Correct. And I think he's starting to do it with with Baby Monster. By Fire Butterfly. If you look at how he's doing it with Baby Monster, you'll realize that he is not pushing them the same way he pushed Blackpink. Maybe it's also because the market is not responding. You can argue that if you want, but it is undeniable that he's handling it very, very differently. Very differently. Okay. All right. So SM, we can get to art. Okay. I'll finish this. So for SM artists, the first one that they pushed to the US market is actually Boa. And she went to the US 2010. But just like YG, she didn't really have a clear path towards a US career. So I think they were trying to do it grassroots, but realized that, there's a lot of politics that you have to go through in order to launch a career in the US. And so she went back. That nothing really happened all that much. 2012, they tried again. They actually managed to book Girls' Generation, and primarily probably because as a result of the success of Wonder Girls. They booked Girls' Generation in David Letterman. They actually performed. So live in David Letterman, which a lot of people thought was a misstep, because like, in the US, in South Korea, their audience is primarily young people. So a lot of people were asking like, why would you put them in David Letterman where a lot of their audience is actually older people? But anyway, they got them a booking in David Letterman. But after that, nothing happened again. Okay. So after that, nothing, lull, a big lull for SM Entertainment until BTS happened. And then they launched the Avengers of K-pop, Super M. So they had this big opening, this big, this big debut for this group, but it also didn't work as well. Well, actually, it didn't work at all. So now they're again back in the drawing boards. So I feel like there's primarily two different strategies in how they're penetrating the US market. One is by doing it grassroots, and that's how Big Hit Hybe and JYP are doing it. They're setting up companies, buying companies, launching their own groups in the US while they're nurturing their current idols. And then there is the YG kind of way where you make connections to existing big companies and you allow those big companies to take care of the career of your groups in the US, and then you sort of just ride that success. So so I think so far, YG is also pivoting to sort of copy or to do it the same way JYP and Hybe is doing it. If I am correct, the way that he's managing Baby Monster, he's sending them to tours. He's trying to release many, one single after the other. It used to be that for Blackpink, they would release a single and then they'll wait like 2 years before another single actually drops. But now he's kind of changed it. He's like, okay, once an album tour. So right now, less than 2 years into the career of Baby Monsters, they're already in a world tour. And then he's said that he's going to drop a new full album for Baby Monsters. So he's changing his cadence, he's changing his pattern. And I think he learned that while that strategy of faking it till you make it will work in the long term, in the short term, in the long term, it is him who will lose. Because look at what happened to Blackpink. He lost them all. He built them up and then he lost them all. And that is why I think he's just trying to make as much as he can with Blackpink right now, with the tour, with the upcoming album, because he kind of want to exhaust whatever he can get from Blackpink. After all, that is his big investment. Okay. Super M. Who's Super M? Super M is, so they took, now SM is known for doing this. They would um pull different members of different groups, the most popular ones or the most talented ones, and put them all in one group, and they would call them the super group or whatever. So they had like SM the performance, and that was composed of the best dancers of different SM groups. There was another, the counterpart for vocalists. So they're known for doing that. And then for this one, for Super M, it was an attempt to sort of do something like create a group similar to BTS. Okay. So do you have questions about that? So that's, it's going to be interesting which one is going to work. So far, with the reason I actually fronted the Yi Jae-sang, the CEO of HYBE, becoming a member of the Grammy, because it is very important for them to actually get into the network of Hollywood if they want to make things a little easier for them. So now that he's there, they'll be able to do more. And that would not have been possible if they were just leeching off the popularity and the money and the power of existing music labels. Because if you're the music label, I'm going to gatekeep this industry. So I won't let anybody in. If you want to turn over your prized possession to me, fine. But you are not getting in, right? I'll take your idol, I'll make them popular, but you, the agency, will stay there because I don't want you to have the power. But hype is sort of, it's slow. Well, actually it's fast, but to our mind, to our eyes, it's slow, but it's working. So let's see what Lee Jae-sang and the rest of the artists that became a member, what difference can they make? Okay, popping with dropping. It was not popping, it was dropping. They need to stop trying to create another BTS. Not gonna happen. Correct answer, Hybe is gonna succeed and BTS is going to go to skyrocket. Um, Weavers just dropped. Yeah. So I think this is what I think is going to happen. Once, so I think that this promotion of BTS is going to go a little longer than usual. So I think the tour will probably longer than what we anticipate, because I think this is just my prediction. I don't know if this is going to be true, but this is going to come true. But I think BTS knows, and even HYBE knows, that after this promotional tour, BTS members would want to do individual projects. And the first time they did it, they were all time bound, right? Even Jin and J Hope, they were all still time bound because the rest of the group will be coming back from the military and they have to rejoin them. So they still had very limited time. Um, and it will most likely be that members would wanna exhaust all of the resources that they have and really promote to the health for their individual projects. So that will also drag the amount of time before they can actually come back as a group. And so they're going to try and do as many stops as they can for their tour, probably launch a series of albums or whatever. But I think this promotion is going to last longer. And then their individual promotions will also last longer. And that's when we will actually truly feel the individual brand power, the actual pool of each BTS member one when they do their individual promotions. I know that Jin and Suga and J-Hope did tremendous. I mean, they're great in that even though they were time bound, they still established a lot of records. But I don't think that is actually half of what they can do more. They can do more. It's just that, as I've said, they are time bound. So I'm excited to see that because I want to see like how they're actually going to, establish their brand and whatever. But that will wait. So first the group first. I actually enjoy BM more. Okay, so it's 2:05. I think he's done already with the first pitch. if you go to YouTube, if you go to YouTube, he's probably done already. But I do have one more topic. I just don't know if we have time to actually do it. Um, so have you checked AHOF? Yes. So I know that there is this new group. There's a Filipino member. I haven't seen it, but I will check them out. I am hoping that they will tour for at least a year. They might tour more than a year. I think they're gonna try and do as many stops as they could. And I don't think it's because they want to establish records. I think they just kind of want to meet as many armies as they could. And I think they are aware that their next promotion individually will be extended. And so, given that they won't be together again for a while, they would probably want to do as much as they can. So it might be more than a year. I really am hoping for a semi residency in some states, Vegas. um if there is a place where they will do, I'm hoping they will do an extended residency, it should be Vegas because it's the entire city is set up for that. So okay, we have time. So all right, I'll just do, okay, so for anybody, do you think will Jimin will have a tour? I think all of them will definitely have a tour. Okay, so I will just do the Map of the Soul, RM's letter. And then for those who need to tap out, I know that it's late for some people, then maybe you can just watch this later. How about that? Okay, I'll just do the letter because I know that many of you actually tuned in because that's in the topic. So, and that's the title. So I'll just do this. And then for those who need to go, I'll see you next time and you can just watch this in the replay. I will keep it up. I'm not going to take it down. Okay. All right. So for the there's a specific part in RM's letter that actually struck me very, very strongly. And it was this part. Let's read it. It was about the self. So he was talking about like his routine every day, going back, waking up at like 9 or 10, going to the gym, going to the studio at 1, working until 9, having dinner, and then sitting down in the garden of their rented place where he is living with the rest of the boys right now. So he said that I sit alone in the terrace of our rented house, and I often think about the past, the present, and the future, these tangled tenses of time. And he said that um, I I often think about the past, the present, and the future in these tangled tenses of time. Honestly, I can't quite grasp any of them firmly. I am neither fully laughing nor crying, just running forward day by day. They say the self is actually an illusion. Scientists call it the sum of electrical signals in the brain. The Buddha said it's the result of flow and interconnected causes. Okay. And I wondered, maybe our team is like that too. Not a fixed entity, but something that's changing every day. But something that's in our hearts, Bangtan might be like pieces of paper, each of a different color. But I'm not quite sure anymore what it is, or rather what it was. But there's one thing, as I near 30, to still be creating something together with his friends that hits different. I want to dedicate myself to and feel grateful for this very, very moment. So it made me come back to Map of the Soul, because self is a huge thing in the Jungian psychology, which I know is very much discussed already. But there are just some things that I kind of just realized after going back again to this masterpiece. So this is Carl Jung. Just for those who haven't seen a picture of him, that's Carl Jung. He was working with Freud for a really long time. So as you know, the clearest expression of the Jungian psychology in Map of the Soul is the creation of persona, shadow, and ego. And so RM for persona, shadow is Suga, and then J Hope did ego. Outside of that, every music video that they had actually had two versions, right? For Black Swan, it had the MV and the art film. So one represents the outer selves, and then one represents the inner selves. I'm sure that many of you already know that. Okay, so I'm just, for those who don't, then this is a review. If not, then okay. All right. Um, Even On also had two versions. One is very much based on the Bible, biblical stories, which is the inner selves, and then one is the outer selves, which is the performance. Okay. Now, um, there are three things that I sort of missed the first time, or didn't really ponder on the first time, that kind of thought about when he wrote this letter. One is the concept of the evolving concept of self, according to the Jungian psychology. Second is the nurturing of the shadow or the monster, because in Jungian psychology, he encouraged that we all get in touch, or we allow the monsters inside of us to actually surface, which is counterintuitive to what Freud wanted, because Freud is saying that we need to control that. Okay. So, and then the reason behind BTS's biblical references on MV. When I first did a video discussing the different biblical references of on MV, I got a very, very strong email from somebody cursing me and saying that I was so disrespectful for attaching BTS to our religion. Okay, just a side note. Okay. All right. So there's just, again, for those who need a refresher, this is the application of the outer self and the inner self, the persona, the ego, and the shadow. So shadow is actually on your inner world, and then your outer world, that's where your persona and when your ego is. I'm going to discuss the why Jungian psychology actually referred to some of the biblical references that BTS used. Okay, so that's basically it. Your ego and your persona, that's what you show to the world, and then your shadow is what you keep to yourself. Okay. Now, again, just as a refresher, persona is the mask that you show to the world. Okay, our social role, our image, not that is not necessarily the fullness of ourselves, but that is who we are in the society, the role that we play. Okay. And then your shadow is your hidden or repressed side. So these are your fears, your what you think is your flaw, desires that you don't want to face. Okay. Most of the time this is what people call your carnal self, your very raw self. Okay. Now, ego is the conscious I. So this is basically your aware self. This is what you take into consideration in terms of yourself when you're making a decision. Okay. Okay. So self is the totality of psyche, uniting conscious and unconscious and the archetypes of wholeness. So, self is the basis of all of this. That is, all the pieces come together for the self, which are mentioned in his letter. He's not sure what the self is. Now, he said in the letter, they say the self is actually an illusion. Scientists call them the sum of electrical signals in the brain, and Buddha said it's the result of flow and interconnected causes. That's what he said. Okay. Now, um, they said that there are two contradicting ways on how you can fulfill yourself, on how you can become the best version of yourself. One version of this is when you let go of problematic parts of yourself and you undergo an it what they call the controlled burn. You discard what is not working. You discard what you think is not good. You try not to do it. For example, if you have an addictive personality, then you try not to become an addict. If you have a hot head, you anger easily, you try to change that. You do meditation, but you don't want to be angry. Okay. So you shed off things about yourself in order to fulfill the best version, to become the best version of yourself. However, Jungian psychology is saying that that is not correct. You actually have to resurface, you actually have to embrace your shadow. You have to embrace everything that you don't like about yourself, confront them, and allow that to surface. Okay, so those are two contradicting things. Okay, now in the shadow MV, of Shoga, this is a biblical reference. As I've said, I'm going to get to the explanation why they use the biblical references later. So this is actually a biblical reference. It's actually in Exodus. And in Exodus, they said that there is a passage there where God the Father said that, okay, you have to put blood of the lamb on your doors, and then death, the plague, will pass. And if there are lambs, blood on your door, then you will be safe. Okay. So essentially, what the instruction is: obey or die, right? You will either not, you cannot, you just have to, you cannot allow your monster to surface, or you will die. You have to obey me. You have to be good, or you will die. Okay. Okay. Um, so if you would remember, uh, in the Bible, in the shadow, the suggestion is that uh, you need to get rid of that ugly part of you, and you have to be good. Okay, but in the music video, Suga actually is also the plague itself. He's also death. So the person that is being protected is also the person that is threatening him. And that is also him. And you can see that in here in this shot. So in this shot, you can see that the person that's looking at Suga on the stage is also the person whose camera, who they are looking at to take a picture of. So he's not just the one getting threatened, he's also the one threatening the person. So they're one and the same. So in Jungian psychology, he's saying that um, the shadow is actually not totally evil. It's actually necessary. Those are things in you that you need to discipline. That's part of you. So if you have an addictive personality, that's a part of you. If you repress it, you will not achieve the best version of yourself. So, okay. So in the MV for Suga, instead of burying his shadow, he actually embraced it. That's why he kept on saying, towards the like halfway through the song, he kept on saying, "I want to be a rock star. I want to be rich." So remember, that's what he was saying in the beginning, right? When he was setting up the story of the blood on the door and all of those stuff. So, but halfway through the song, he didn't change it. He just reinforced it. He just kept on saying, "I want to be a rock star." So he embraced his shadow. He embraced the monster in him. Okay, which is consistent with the Jungian psychology. And so, towards the end, when he himself was looking at the version of himself on stage, you can see the lyrics is that "you are me, I am you," meaning the monster and the person that the monster is threatening is one and the same. And that is why Jungian psychology is saying that if you make your monster separate from who you are, it's not going to work because you're one and the same. So you have to work, you need to know how to work together. um okay, so they're saying, so why do you allow your monster to actually work with you? Because greatness comes from disciplined obsession. All the great people, from Michael Jordan to Albert Einstein to whoever, they were able to do great things because they allowed their obsession to work for them. So you just need, don't put it aside, don't brush it aside, just learn how to work with them. Okay. So, and that is what Suga did in the MV. He embraced his monster. So this is just an interesting thing. While I was reading, Nietzsche said that, I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly, said that most of the time morality is just because we're a coward, we're just afraid. In other words, we are moral not because we believe in the natural goodness of things or that we are naturally good, just but because we're just afraid of the consequences. I don't hurt people not because I have compassion, but because I'm just afraid of the consequences. And if I'm not afraid of the consequences, then I will just hurt people whenever I want to hurt people. That's his argument. So he thinks morality for the most part is hypocrisy and cowardice. Okay. All right. So so that's why Jung is actually pushing that you have to allow that evil to surface, whatever that evil part of you to surface. It doesn't mean that you will put it to use. It just means that you will discipline it so that you can use it for the good. Okay. So you have to learn how to be kind when you don't want to be kind. Okay. So, sorry, when you don't need to be kind. That for Jung is real morality. When you don't need to be kind, but you still are kind. Okay. So that is what essentially Suga did in the music, the MV. He decided, I'm going to be greedy, just for the lack of a better term. I'm going to pursue this passion. I'm going to become a rock star. I'm going to become rich. I will embrace these desires that I have and I will discipline that so that it works for me. Okay. Now, why is Jung using Bible? Why did Map of the Soul incorporated biblical elements in the music video? Okay. Because Jung actually referred to a lot of, he referred to the Bible a lot. Okay. In fact, when he was asked once if he believed in God, he said that, I do not believe, I know. And this is one of his quotable quotes. He did say this, I do not believe, I know. But his concept of God is different from the concept of God of different religion. He believes that God is in us. Okay, so we are that God's fulfillment is in us. So he personally experienced, for him, he personally experienced the reality of God as an inner presence. So it's in us. It's not like some separate entity. Although he did refer to God as a separate entity eventually in his later works. So Jung often equated encounters with God to the encounters of the unconscious self. So he's saying that the only way for you to truly tap the best of yourself, you need to confront your encounters with God. And your encounters with God is the encounter to yourself. Okay. Okay. So he believed in biblical narratives. He believed that biblical narratives, the stories in the Bible like myths and fairy tales, actually contained universal symbols of archetypes. As you know, he actually put he had 8 different types of archetypes. And then eventually Briggs and Myers, to apply his analytical principles, created the MBTI personality test. Okay, so that's actually where the MBTI started. So, okay, um, Elijah, he actually mentioned Elijah a lot in his different writings. So, he said that Elijah um, represented many of our need to escape, and only to later on realize that we don't have the individual capacity to sustain ourselves after an escape, that we always need somebody else. Okay, so that's how he viewed Elijah. He also talked about King David. He talked about, of course, Jesus Christ. So here are some of the archetypes, some of the biblical narratives that he equated to different biblical characters. Adam and Eve, he said, is an archetype of innocence, fall, and confrontation with the knowledge, which is in the shadow part of ourselves. Noah, which was played by RM in the music video, is an archetype of destruction and renewal. So again, the shadow. Christ is an archetype of the self, wholeness, integration of opposites, and then Satan, archetype of the shadow. So he often used the biblical stories in his books. So it's not surprising. Let's just assume, why would they use biblical narratives in the music video when they are not religious? Well, because even Jung himself actually used biblical narratives in many of his writings. So that is the reason. Okay. All right. Questions about that? So now RM did ask in his letter, is the self just an illusion? Do we not really ever fulfill ourselves, like the full potential of ourselves? Do we not really fulfill it? Because according to what he said, it's flowing. In Jung's theory, he said that the self already exists as an archetype of wholeness, meaning the self exists, we're whole, we know, like, we are already the best version of ourselves. In that whole circle, we're the best version of ourselves, but it is our conscious part that is actually keeping us from realizing the best version of ourselves. So it's because we try to repress the shadow. That's why we never fully come in terms, or we never fully realize the best version of ourselves. And he compared it into walking towards the horizon. Like, we see the horizon is full. We see the horizon to be beautiful, to be wide and ever. And we can keep on walking towards there, but we never fully arrive. He said that the only way we can actually come close to that is if we allow our shadow, the monster inside us, to surface and learn how to control it. Do you have questions? Blame RM. So in the last 2 nights, that's what I was thinking about, and I decided I was going to share it with you. Okay, do you have questions? Jung was a preacher's son. He was. Some people don't have it in them to be mean. Yeah, and then, but Nietzsche's argument is that most of us are not mean simply because we're scared of the consequence of being mean. That if we don't have that consequence, people will just do what they want to do. BTS's music is never shallow. When did you start researching the author? Jung? AC University. When did I start researching Jung? When did I start researching yun? I started researching yung, I think college. I would say college. And then, but like truly get into it after I read The Courage to be Disliked, the book that Suga read. So after reading that, because it's kind of I don't know if you've read the book. It's a very challenging book to read, by the way, because it kind of challenges you in a lot of ways. So V's coming out, they said. So yeah, there's are you going to trust us? So if you really sit down and think about that book, it's very challenging, and so that's when I started researching about Jung. Um, but yeah, there's that's it. They have questions. I remember listening to a podcast about Jung when Persona dropped. It's very interesting. It's very interesting. If you read Jung and Adler, uh, Adler's psychology is so Adler came from Jungian psychology, inspired by Jungian psychology. That was really challenging because it's like it really forces you to take responsibility of your life. Like stop. It's kind of like it does not say that trauma is not real. It's just saying it's temporary. That's hard for a lot of people to hear, right? Because a lot of us are scarred because of the things that happened to us in the past. And you can't take that away from people. But that book is challenging that. It's saying that, yeah, oh no, it's true. It's real. Everything that happened to you is real. It's just that it's not real anymore. It was real at that time, but it's not real anymore. So everything that's happening to you because of that is you, not because of that incident. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's what it is. So international age. Okay. So do you have questions about that? Is there any clarification that you want to make? Of course, fire butterfly. All right. So I will see you next week. I don't know if V is already pitching, but you can tune in now. Thank you so much for being with me. I'll see you again on Wednesday. Happy beginning of the week, and enjoy BTS. Bye.